Actually, first remark, I didn't call it naughty list. I used a different word. And good news, I checked through the list of registered people. None of you are on it. All right. So let's find out, how it looks when you bring data to a public relations fight. And so this is what venue trash talk looks like. All right. So suppose you're some hedge fund asset manager, right? And you want to trade some big size, right? And your goal is to minimize market impact, right? But also do this as easily and conveniently as possible, because you're probably not super sophisticated. You just want to get some size done, right? So you could invest time and people, infrastructure to get some super sophisticated execution algorithm, right? That's probably not on the table, right? Then there's the classical tool of just put an iceberg order in the book, but that's also a bit old school, right? And then then the dark pools, right, are what we'll be talking about today, right? There's some direct counterparty trading you could do, right, with I don't know, where the price formation, the price transparency is, and then also, and this goes together a little bit with the dark pool trading, right? If you really want to minimize your market impact, right, one tool could consist in going on a venue, right, where nobody looks at the market data, right? Because then it really doesn't matter. And I think that plays a bit a role in the dark pools, right? You want to do a trade at the best price, right? So the mid seems pretty fine. And it should also be convenient, right? And again, this is where these midpoint dark pools come in, right? You place an order, say I'm fine crossing at the mid, whatever it might be at the time I'm getting filled, but the market is efficient, so it'll be all right. So, and let's go to the next. And I think the best solution, right, that used to be out there, right, I call it the Betamax, right, of order types, because it was technologically superior, but for some reason the market was wrong, right, and didn't adopt it, was the volume discovery order that existed on Xetra. It was kind of a genius concept, right? So you would place an iceberg order, right, in the Xetra book, and you could set a second limit price, right? And then if another volume discovery order existed on the opposite side of the book, right, who also had a second limit price, right, and your two limit prices were matchable with each other, then the entire hidden quantity, right, of these two volume discovery orders would match at the current mid price. So it was kind of the best of both worlds, right? You had an iceberg order in the lit book, so you would profit from the liquidity in the volume trading in the normal book, right? Plus, opportunistically, right, if there was volume on the opposite side willing to trade at the mid, right, you would. But Betamax, for some reason, it just didn't happen, and so it was discontinued, I believe, earlier this year. But since it didn't catch on the exact date, also kind of doesn't matter. So we end up with VHS, right? And you can tell, right, VHS is already like 30 years old, right? So I apologize to all the young people who don't get the reference, right? So kind of the next best solution then was the dark pool trading, right? And there's like a weird, unfortunate confluence, right, of regulatory requirements and physics, right, that pose a major flaw, as I will show, right? So they're fully dark, right? You place an order there, you're willing to cross at the mid, right? You don't know if there's anything on the opposite side. You could trade aggressively, or you could wait for 20 minutes until someone comes in the opposite side, right, and through to regulatory requirements, right, unless you're large in size, right, they have to match you at the reference price, right? The reference price being the mid price at the primary, right? Xetra, right? So we're only talking about German stock, so Xetra, right? And so none of these dark pools are located in our Colo center for now, right? So they're all in Amsterdam or London, right? And now the fatal flaw is that the speed of light in silica is much slower than in air, right? And so what happens? The dark pool, right, needs the current reference price, right? And the dark pools have some fiber optic line, right, a feed from the primary to adjust their mid and the price of the orders, right? And all it takes is one participant, right, with a microwave dish who sends his orders or the market data through air, right, and then he can gain a speed advantage, right? And so this is like an old map from 10 years ago. This shows, this is outdated, right? Today's map will be busier, but conceptually will look very similar. So this is based on public data, the network of microwave towers and connections that exist, right? And so, for example, you see here they are on the Cornwall, right? The lower corner of the UK, right? It's Cornwall, right? Right. So on Cornwall, right, you see the transatlantic cable coming in, and then you immediately go to microwave, right? And then one line goes to London, and then the direct route goes to Frankfurt, right? And then even in the microwave lines, right? There's a lot of competition on who can build them in the straight line of sight without bouncing back and forth, right? And so and what this gives you, right, you get a about 2 millisecond or so speed advantage, right? So to send data from London to Frankfurt via fiber takes about 4.3-ish milliseconds, and via microwave it's 2.2-ish, 2.3-ish, right? So this is what happens, right? So suppose you see the mid price changing on Xetra. So now you know that in 4.6 milliseconds or 4.3 milliseconds, you know what the price on the dark pool will be, right? And I can send my order, right, 2 milliseconds faster than this, right? So I still have the chance, right, to pick off the old price, right, before it changes in the dark pool, right? And you can easily see, right, that this happens, right? So in this chart here, the horizontal axis is time since a mid change on Xetra, right? So for a given stock at t = 0, the mid on Xetra changes, and then the blue line, that's the fraction of volume that trades on the dark pool, right, after a given latency, right? And so you see here suddenly at the 2.2 millis, right, the microwave latency, there's a sudden rush of trading activity on the dark pool, right? And then there's a little smaller leftover bit at the optical fiber latency. This is because even if you have a faster fiber, right, there's still a slight chance that you beat the mid peg, right? So, but the interesting number is here, right? So the left, so the vertical scale is the traded notional as a percentage of the total traded notional on the dark pool, right? So we see here between 35 and 40% of all traded notional, right, on the dark pool is just pure latency arb, right? So far for being safe, right, on the dark pool and being and being hidden, right? And in a sense, right, the dark pool even makes it easier, right? Because normally, right, as an aggressor I would have to cross the spread, right? But on a dark pool, right, I can actually trade at the mid, right? So it makes the arbitrage even cheaper, right? So I think recently, Euronext, they produced very similar results, right? So for the Euronext, so for the French stocks, it looks almost exactly the same, and also for SIX, right? For the SIX stocks, then of course, for those two venues, the latencies will be a little bit different, right? Because they have them, right? Because Euronext have the matching engine in Bergamo, right? So the numbers will be shifted a little bit, but qualitatively it looks the same. All right, and so I do want to stress, here I picked, SIBO, but I don't want to, the Euronext and SIX, they also looked at other dark pools, and it looks the same, right? I don't want to pick on them, and also there's no bad faith, right, on the part of the dark pools, right? There's really nothing they can do, right? Just a geographical distance, right, and the requirement to match at mid, and it's almost inevitable. All right, so this was where the aggressor could kind of preempt a future mid change on the dark pool, right? But you can also kind of have a trade in the opposite direction, right? So you see a mid change on the primary, right? And then you even see this reverting shortly after, right? So you now, right? So you see, say, the mid on Xetra goes up, and then a few microseconds it goes down again, right? So now right? What in 4.3 milliseconds, right? There will be a brief blip in the price on the dark pool, right? And it can trade in the opposite direction, right? And will be at a better price than what I could get anywhere else, right? So and this isolates a few of these cases, right? So so the scenario we're looking at here, we have the price on Xetra, right? It's stable, it changes briefly, and then it goes down, right? And stays there, right? And at some point later, right? This is the the 4.3 millisecond delay. Here we see a trade on the dark pool, but on the only very brief mid price on Xetra, right? So and the chart here. So the chart here shows this, right? So we see at t equals 0, right? So this is a trade on the dark pool, and then we filter for cases, right, where 4.x-ish milliseconds before, right, we had one of these intermittent mid changes, right? And these are now sorted by how short they were, right? But you see, you have some cases where the price was really only a couple of microseconds, right, different, and then still people got hit on the mid price, right? And I think this is a bit like filling up your car at the gas station just during these 10 minutes when the price just changed and then came back down. So there was a recent paper that looked at how susceptible, right, instruments are to manipulation, right? I think nothing is going on here, but it's susceptible, right? I would say. All right, because there's a lot of trades, there's a lot of activity, right? So this can also happen during the normal course of trading, right? But still, right? It would suck, right? If you got filled on the dark pool at this intermittent price as the passive side. All right. Right. So can we do a bit better than VHS? Right. So I mean, one solution would be, right, if the dark pools had like a speed bump, right? And a speed bump higher than the microwave to fiber latency advantage, right? Like say 2 or 3 milliseconds, but this probably would face some regulatory scrutiny, right? One recent development are these periodic auctions, right? Those are a feature, but then I would say, right, but then you're basically back at the at the opening, intraday, and closing auction, right? What's magic about number of 3, right? And then these books with the randomized uncrossing times, right? So that, in quotes, fixes the problem, right? But I think for research purposes, it's really unfortunate, right? Because then that makes it basically unbacktestable, right? Anything. So, and I think possibly the DVD will be something that goes live on Monday, hopefully. Or it is anticipated to go live on Monday, right? So Xetra, they will start their own midpoint book, right? And so ignore the date. It's not the 18th. It's the 25th. I got this wrong. But there, you won't have any latency arbitrage, right? Because it's co-located in the same data center as the main exchange, and in fact, it runs on the same matching engine, right? In the same process, right? So there's no way for anyone to speed up you and to get in the way, right? And right, you have the option, right, to send an order, a so-called sweep order, right, where you go in, right, and if there is liquidity in the dark book on the mid, right, you fill this, and if not, right, you hit the lit book. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, right? So there's kind of no losing, right? If there's mid, you get price improvement. If not, you trade as normal, right? And still, right, for the passive side, right, there's always this concern that people can check, right, if there's volume at the mid, right, by sending like tiny insignificant orders, right? So you can actually set minimum execution sizes, right? So this is also taken care of, right? So you're not getting pinged, right? Plus there's on the mid there's volume time priority, right? So this is also a nice feature. All right. So I'm really, I was hoping, right? I was under the impression that it's actually this Monday. So I was hoping to show some early trades in the mid and do some analysis. But unfortunately, we have to wait till Monday. But the script is ready and waiting, right? So let's see. All right, and then because I chatted with someone in the audience about good names being taken. Right, I came across this in the mandatory disclaimer, right, in all the trademarks that we have. Notice this here. Huh? We have a trademark on 1585. Sucks to if you're Pope Sixtus the 10th, because I think this was the year he was elected, inaugurated. Right, so if you ever mention him, right, you get a trademark infringement from us. All right, and that's. That was this presentation. Yeah. All right.
So we'll start it off. Are there any questions from our in-person audience?
Do you have anyone from SIBO here? We can take it outside.
Great. Well, if not, the questions that are coming up on my screen. So couldn't dark pool operators just use the microwave link for the mid peg?
Yes, theoretically they could. I think the challenge you have is just the bandwidth you need, right? Because as an aggressor, right, I only need to find say I only trade 10 instruments, right? So I only need the bandwidth for 10 instruments, right? I only need to be the fastest for these 10, right? Whereas if I'm the platform, right, and I'm having hundreds of instruments, right, then the bandwidth might not be there over microwave, right? And but even if it was, right, then the second problem is, right, this only works if I'm really the fastest, right? If I have the second fastest microwave line, right, I'm still too slow, right? At least for one, right? So I think it would be an improvement, but not the solution. Yeah.
Right. I'm someone who has an affinity for Cornwall, so from that side, it does look like Cornwall could be an ideal location for a trading venue.
No, actually, I think Frankfurt is much. I think, I think we need a unified Europe under strong German leadership, right? I think all venues should come to the Frankfurt data center. Oh, hold on. I think we need the disclaimers again.
So how could this be addressed by the dark pools? Obviously, you've highlighted an issue here. How can they address it?
Yeah, I think the correct solution would be to have a speed bump, right? But I'm not quite sure, right, if this is something that they don't want to, right? Or if there might be some regulatory hesitation, right, for the regulator to say we are okay with this, right? Because like a speed bump, like they have on IEX, right? Right, a famous, what was the movie? Flash Boys, right? Of the Flash Boys exchange, right? I think this wouldn't fly with the European regulator. So I think this could be tricky. But this would be the only solution really available, right? Or of course, co-locate to Frankfurt. Yeah.
And you touched on sort of having auctions could wreck back testing. But could this solve the problem? What are the benefits there?
Yeah. It could, right? But from a research point of view, right, it just makes it very awkward, right? Because you send an order there, right? You have just no visibility, right? If I get filled, when, right? And then in a sense, right, there's still an latency advantage, right? Because if I see the price on the primary changing, right, and then I know, right, I still have 2 milliseconds advantage over anyone else, right? And I have an extra 2 milliseconds to see if the market reverts back or not, right? So I still can cancel when other ones can't, right? So it makes it much better, right? But not quite right. And we're German, right? We want to have it just right. Yeah.
Fantastic. So in that case, thank you to Stefan for your talk, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you, William.